Welcome to the Retention Edge podcast. This week, I'm sitting down with Nate from Remarkably.ai, helping enterprise brands use AI to personalize customer engagement at scale. Before Remarkable, Nate worked at Google on voice search and Google Assistant. Today, we'll explore how brands can use customer context to drive retention and win back customers. Hi, Nate. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for the invitation. Good to meet you.
Great to meet you. So I have been looking into Remarkable, and I'm keen to hear more about the product. But before we start, could you give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and your background?
Yeah, I'm one of the leaders of Remarkably.ai. We're based in New York, and we work with leading enterprise consumer brands like Unilever, like Kimberly-Clark, New Era Cap, and others. Work across fashion, beauty, consumer packaged goods. And before this, I was at Google for many years. I was a product manager, worked on voice search and the Google Assistant, which is what led to the technology insight for the business. The part of Google I worked on was around context. So Google is able to personalize your search experience, your ad experience based on the context it has about you. And we found an opportunity to leverage that same idea to help brands personalize the experience for their consumers.
So was that the moment where you realized you had something that could be the beginning of a new company?
Yeah, I was thinking about the problems that I thought were important in the world and the skill sets that I had that were unique to apply to those problems. And then decide to jump into building Remarkable. We started with a different approach to solving this problem, but over the years, listening to customer feedback, we evolved to what you see today at Remarkable.
Right. Give us more of the details of that. What was the first version like?
Yeah, so we started in customer support, typically for SMBs. Still something we do today, but over the years, we've transitioned to focus on mid-market and enterprise. And now we not only do customer support, we also help with customer acquisition, particularly on social, on platforms like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, but also customer retention, typically over email, which I think is the focus of what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. I think you have something about win back, right? And how it's a huge missed opportunity for brands. Am I right?
Yes, essentially, yeah. So this call got started because we were talking to one of our customers, and she talked about how she's been in business for many years, and she has hundreds of thousands of customers who shop with her, but never shopped again. And I was so surprised because I assumed this has already been solved. E-commerce has been around for many years, and this must be almost every brand has this problem where they have all these customers who shop with them one time and never shop again. And the more I dug into it, I realized that it's actually a gold mine that most brands are sitting on and they're not doing much with it. And so that's what we set out to solve, is helping brands win back customers with one-to-one personalized outreach.
So, of course, you have AI in the name, but you started quite a few years ago, right? And I understand about the different product pivots. Of course, what AI can do today is very different from what it could do a few years back. But this promise of personalization, right, almost like one-to-one communication with your customers, has always seen like almost like this untapped potential, as you were mentioning. I'm curious, how do you use AI today, and what's the differential in performance that you see when you're truly personalizing?
Yeah, certainly. So the first part starts with obtaining all the context about the customer that's available. Brands have all this context that they're not using. What do I mean by context? For example, order history, browsing behavior, customer support interactions. And that's something that feels like the whole industry missed. There's so much richness in those customer support interactions where people are giving you feedback about your products, about your website, about your business. And most brands are not utilizing that at all. And it makes sense because it's hard to analyze all that data by hand, but AI can actually solve that. And so that's the first part of what we do, is we ingest all of that customer context and figure out who the right customers to reach out to, when's the right time, and what's the right message. A simple example of that is if you just bought a particular product, why would you go and buy that exact same product again? But shockingly, most brands are blasting their customers about the same product the customer already has, you know, very close to when they just purchased it because they're just not using that information. So we use AI basically to ask that question based on the company strategy, who the right customers to reach out to, what's the right time, and then finally, what's the right product. And so you can do very complex things and express it as a prompt, almost to say, I'll give you an example. We recently launched with a large beauty retailer, and they said they want to push their hair care, their skin care, their body care, but not their fragrance and not their makeup, right? So how do we recommend those specific products that are going to match that customer, the next best product in their routine? So let's say they have a cleanser. Now they need to get a sunscreen, as an example, as the next best product. You can explain this very simply as a human, but historically, this was very hard to do in terms of personalization. But we're able to enable that for this brand. And in terms of performance, we had a goal to generate $20,000 for them from reaching out to 4,000 customers. We actually generated $26,000 for reaching out to 1,500 customers. So we overachieved the target with a smaller number of customers. And we measured this both in terms of increase in lift. We had a control group, and then we had our campaign group. And we also saw a lift of around 3x from the control group to the campaign group for the highest performing campaign. So we're able to generate revenue in absolute terms, which is very significant, and show that lift on a performance basis versus control group. More generally, zooming out from this one example, we typically see around a 50x improvement in terms of revenue per customer for our customers. What does that mean? Typically for win-back, the industry average for post-purchase revenue for emails, let's say a customer has purchased but didn't purchase again for, let's say, 6 months or even longer. The industry average is 11 cents across e-commerce. Okay. And when we do these type of campaigns, we're generating $5 to $10 revenue per customer. So for every email we send, we're going to generate $5 or more compared to 11 cents, which is the industry average. So that's where the 52x or higher performance improvement comes from this personalization.
It's almost a untapped potential, right? You were talking about a gold mine.
Yes.
Because if you're stuck at segmentation, right,
Yes.
you're only going to get those cents that you were talking about, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of shocking that it wasn't solved because there's really huge platforms which are very successful companies. You know their names that do market automation, have been in the industry for years, and it kind of stagnated because those companies are not AI native. They're not AI first. And so what does that actually mean in terms of technology? They built a software that a human has to use to get the value, right? The human has to log into that software and configure this. So if you have a very skilled agency or very skilled CRM leader who spends the time to master that software, then they actually could get much better results than 11 cents. What we found is, shockingly, these platforms were set up 5 years ago, sometimes even 10 years ago, and they haven't been touched because the marketers are so busy running what we call campaigns. Hey, it's Mother's Day, send an email. Oh, we launched a new product, send an email. That no one ever goes back to optimize those win back flows, and they're stale. They're promoting products maybe that don't even exist on the website, and they're really, really basic because it takes time to configure this in the kind of legacy tools. Our approach was completely different. We said it's going to be done for you. An AI agent is going to do the work for you. And that means that it can self-optimize. That means it can pick the products that make sense in this time, right? And continually do that. And so it's very dramatically different approach, which is why you get dramatically different results. But a human who is super skilled with the time could actually achieve much better results, but no one has the time because these marketing teams are so stretched. There's been layoffs and restructuring across the whole e-commerce and retail industry. And you have a small team of marketers managing huge customer bases and being expected to do everything. And it just doesn't work. You have to use
Yeah.
AI to actually get that leverage as a marketer.
Yeah, there's just it's a gap in the tools. It's also a gap in the time and mind space available to go after the opportunity.
Yes.
And you mentioned done for you. I'm curious, how much service have you guys baked into the offer?
Yeah, almost everything is done for you. To get started in our platform, we have one call where we just need to learn about your business and what your goals and objectives are. And then there's a second call where we show you all the campaigns that we're going to run. And then you approve, and then we can launch. this is the ideal scenario. When we work with larger brands, we have to go through a security review, maybe procurement, legal, but in actual setup time for the brand, it can happen as fast as 2 meetings because we really are doing all the work for you. We'll then
Yeah.
send out you test messages so you can see what they look like. What does personalization look like in practice? You might have some feedback. We'll refine that, and then we'll scale up the campaign from there. But the real input we need from the brand can be done in those 2 calls.
And then I imagine you need to tap into existing systems, right? You need all those order informations, customer support, the
Yes.
product catalog. How does it work?
Yeah. So typically we have one-click integrations with the leading e-commerce platforms, leading market automation tools. If they don't have a one-click, we can use the API key. But our platform is basically ingesting that information. In this most simple case, someone who's using something like Shopify, they're using something like Klaviyo, maybe they're using a Zendesk or a Gorgeous. Then there's really just one click, 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 and we have the integrations we need. Our apps are available in all those app stores. We have SOC 2 Type 2 compliance. So we've gone through kind of to ensure that there's those security and enterprise privacy safeguards in place to make these brands feel comfortable.
Got it.
Mhm.
Um, and and then you essentially deliver results, right? That's there's no tools, there's no lists, there's no messaging. You take care of all of that.
Yes, exactly. I know that it sounds very foreign and shocking. It's almost like too good to be true. But we prove it. We prove it in a pilot typically. We'll set a goal. We'll say, hey, we'll make you $20,000. Like I shared this other example, $50,000. And then you can continue and scale from there. Um, but that's really the power of AI, that you can give it access to the content that it needs with the right framework and structure, and it can deliver these types of results. And so it's really a different type of mind space of how you can approach these type of problems. And for some brands, it's just very unfamiliar to them. Like, you mean I don't have to do data migration? I don't have to migrate to your platform. You don't have to train me on your platform. No, all of that is not necessary. And I think that's the expectation now for new tools, because new tools have to really hit that bar of speed to value is what really brands care about. They want to wait 6 months before they can get more value from the platform.
Makes sense. Um, I'd imagine the way that often brands approach this type of campaigns in the traditional way of doing it is through maybe creating incentives, using discounts, and then you guys must have figured out essentially a smarter way to achieve potentially even better results. What do you find are typical mistakes that brands run into when they approach this?
Yeah. So with traditional win back, we actually found that most companies are not doing anything around win back. So it's kind of shocking. This gold mine is totally untapped. I think the second is that it's really stale if they do have something and they haven't updated in a long time. Again, not because they don't care, but because companies are busy. And I think the third is that it's a one size fits all. It's really just like, we miss you. Here's $10 off, or here's 10% off. And it just looks like everyone else. And then it lands in the spam folder, it lands in the promotions
Hmm.
folder, and the customer doesn't feel valued. When we send a message, I'll give you an example for a jewelry brand we work with called Melinda Maria. And this brand has a lifetime guarantee on their products, which is amazing and super important for a jewelry brand, especially when you're buying online, right? Where a customer is worried, is this jewelry going to look as good in person as it does on the website, right? And most customers don't actually know that. And so when we do our outreach for Winback, um, we're typically saying, hey, how's that necklace working out for you? How's that earrings working out for you? And people are kind of shocked. A brand actually cares, you know? And sometimes they reply and say, hey, interesting you asked. You know, one of the earrings, one of the stones fell out and I can't wear it anymore. And the brand says, hey, no problem. Send us a photo. We'll send you a new one, or we'll send you something else. And people are shocked and they're impressed and they do it and they get their new product. And then maybe they buy again. That's the first place we're starting with, which is with the service, right? And then another part of the message is, oh, by the way, here's another product you might like. Most people don't reply. Most people don't have a problem and they just go and buy. And this company is generating over $17 revenue per customer. And I told you, industry average is 11 cents without a discount, by the way. There's no discounts in any of these messages. Just being a human and treating people like a human surprisingly gives you better results. Because if you think about yourself as a consumer, wouldn't you love to get from any brand you shop with hey, how is that product working out for you? Do you have any feedback for us? And that just tone to be a different type of relationship with your customer.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're taking more of a long-term view than just trying to generate some incremental revenue by
Yes.
sending
And by
blasting out a
taking that
discount
view, we
code.
actually even sell more. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is so lucrative for them just by
Yeah.
doing the right thing in this scenario. And so that's how we start all
Yeah,
of our
yeah.
with our customers is for their end campaigns is, hey, let's just check in on the customer first. How are they feeling? Because if they're unhappy, there's no point selling. Let's solve the issue first.
It's like, treat it like any other relationship, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, though you do need AI, right, to be able to have this personal level
You need to have
interaction.
some context. So, and if you look in the customer service record, you can say, oh, that person just did a refund. That person just did a cancellation. This person asked
Yeah,
about sizing. They asked if this other product is in stock. We can leverage that to figure out, is this the right customer? And in our message, we can also mention that. Hey, I know you had some questions about sizing. Did you get all your questions answered?
absolutely. I feel
Shockingly,
like
no one is doing that. So you look amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that probably summarizes one of the great powers of using AI these days, right?
Yes.
It's not so much generating your copy with ChatGPT, is bringing in all the context, right? Which
Yes.
that becomes like you're beating a human because the human just cannot keep it in their head. It's
Yes.
time wise, it's non-economical to be able to do that kind of work, right? But now you
Yes.
can.
Yeah, one asterisk I'll put on you, like small businesses get this. When a company is first starting out, every customer is precious. And it's either the founder or the founding team, they're communicating with their customers. But when you grow to have 10,000 customers, 100,000 customers, most companies can't keep up. The only companies that you've seen do this is like the luxury experiences where they sell luxury goods or luxury travel. They pay this type of attention and you can feel it. And so that's what's our aspiration with Remarkable is help every brand deliver a remarkable customer experience and help every brand be remarkable to their customers. That's why the name is what it is.
Awesome. And you guys
Yeah.
have more than this, right? Into the offer. You mentioned the support side and acquisition, right? Can you tell us
Yes.
more?
Yeah. So on the customer acquisition, which is all very, it's also very exciting. The number one problem that brands have is acquiring customers. And the typical way that you do that is by running ads, let's say on Meta or other platforms, Google and so on. And as you might know, that has become more and more expensive for brands and more saturated. But they have to keep doing it, right? And so what we realized is that there's another way to acquire customers. You can obviously post content online, post content on social. You can partner with influencers, but there's one more way. And some brands have been doing it at a smaller scale, which is one-to-one proactive outreach, particularly on platforms like TikTok and YouTube. So I'll give you a scenario. We work with a brand called Curology, which is a skincare brand, and they solve a lot of different skincare challenges. An example would be acne. And basically, what we do is whenever someone posts on TikTok about their beauty concerns, particularly about acne, they're not mentioning Curology. They don't even know what Curology is. Curology will comment on their post and say, "Hey, your skin is glowing," or "Thanks for sharing your journey with us." Nothing salesy, just trying to engage with the community. And people are like, "Oh wow, what is this brand?" They like, they reply, they follow, and sometimes they go ahead and convert and transact. But the primary goal is just awareness and top of funnel in a non-salesy way, in a very positive way for the community. And we've done this with many other brands, with Curology specifically. We reached out to over 20,000 consumers on TikTok in this way because there's so much beauty content. Beauty is one of the top discussions and industries on these social platforms. And this is a lightweight way to get awareness. We've even seen examples where consumers will make their own response video to the video comment. So imagine that you just left a comment on a post and then that comment itself gets, hundreds or thousands of likes and replies. We've seen that too. And then the person makes their own video in response. That also occasionally happens. So it's really comments as content is another way to think about it, to drive that brand awareness for these brands.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a sales agent and a social media manager with superpowers, right?
Yes.
Manning these social channels. I'm curious
Yes.
how you do it. Is it pure automation? Is it a mixed model?
It's a mixed model. And we've always taken a mixed model to everything that we do. When I worked at Google, I came to learn that why the Google algorithm is so powerful is not just because they did PageRank and they're indexing the web results, is because we as humans are clicking on the results. And that is giving feedback to the system about how to improve the ranking. So let's say you search for something, you search for Montreal, right? And then you click on the fourth result. Google realized that like, oh, next time maybe I should show the fourth result as the first result because more people are clicking on the fourth result. Of course, it's changed a lot since then. It's much more sophisticated, but that's a kind of a general representation of what's going on. So human in the loop feedback can help you improve the quality of your results. So across all of our solutions, the retention solution I talked about before, and also with the social solution, we have a human loop model where human can review before a comment is posted. That really gives the enterprise brands confidence and safety in, how is this going to represent my brand if this is going to be at scale, right? And so we do that. So our platform is finding all the relevant posts that meet your brand, guidelines, the approach you're trying to take, generating response in the brand voice, and then a human reviews that before it's posted for that additional safety. And then all that feedback continues to go back into the system to make those recommendations and those suggested responses even better.
And that includes not only text comments, you mentioned video as well, right?
Yeah, so we're leaving text comments on videos or on images. Yes.
Awesome. And you've seen a direct result from the engagement that's created on those posts, right? So you
Yeah,
guys
so we
measure as
primarily
well the
measure
impact.
engagement. So what I mean by engagement is like we comment on a post on behalf of a brand. Let's say we comment on 100 posts, around 50% of those people end up liking, replying, or following after that. So that's what we call engagement. That would be a 50% engagement rate. So we're typically targeting a 30 to 50% engagement rate, and we see that universally across our customers. For some companies, they don't want to stop at engagement, which is more the top of funnel and brand awareness. They also want to drive conversion. So we've also done that. One of the brands we work with has achieved a 7x return on spend. The industry average is typically like a 2 to 3x if people are lucky. So to achieve a 7x with this type of engagement, meaning that we reached out to on a comment on a post, the person engaged back, then we DM the person as a follow up with like a link to sign up with a unique promo code. That person went ahead and purchased, and we can track that conversion all the way through. They're getting a 7x return on spend from that type of activity, which is really exciting for them. So they're getting the awareness, which by the way is evergreen. This is an important point. When you run ads on Google, if you stop spending, the traffic goes away, right? When you do this type of social awareness, those comments live on forever. And we still have comments that we left years ago that are still getting engagement now. Other people are seeing because the algorithm loves to surface things that have engagement. And then you also get these conversions flowing through on it for those companies that want that. So it's a new way. And just to take it up a whole level, the whole mental model of the internet has been, if I want to reach consumers, I need to run ads, right? Or post content. Why don't I just send them a message? And that's our approach at Remarkable. Send them a message, whether it's an email, whether it's a comment on their post that's personalized, that's contextual and is relevant. People are excited to see that.
It's pretty new, right? Like I don't think there's many brands doing this at all.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so we need to get the word out. That's why I'm excited to speak with you. And I know you have a wide audience, and yeah, happy to chat more about it with any brands who are interested in learning more, and happy to offer them a pilot so they can see the results for themselves.
Right. And then you guys have the support side of the business, which was the where you began, right?
Yes. Yes.
I'm curious, what's your take on AI in support today? And there's a lot of promise, I guess. There's also a lot of people that will always tell you, "I always want to speak to the agent. I never want to deal with a bot." How have
Yes.
you solved the problem? What's your approach?
Yeah. This is probably one of the most invested categories in AI, aside from the frontier models themselves, is customer service for AI. And I guess coding is the other one. Coding with AI has received a lot of investment. And it makes sense because it's a very repetitive behavior. It's mostly text based and somewhat voice based. And so this generation of AI with the LLMs and the multimodal models really helps to solve it well. So there's a flurry of solutions, both from new providers and for the incumbent providers like your Salesforce or your and so on, like all providing some kind of solution. And I think it's here and it's here to stay. And it's something that whether consumers like it or not, to your point, then it's something that is here because of the efficiency, because of the cost savings, and in some cases because of the performance. There's some scenarios that are very expensive to serve, like phone, where the voice interaction, the duplex models have gotten good enough that you can now service those interactions in like a very high quality way at a much lower cost. So I think it's inevitable, and whether consumers like it or not, like it's a much better version of what we had in the past, where we had like the very basic RVR phone trees. So I think we should be happy about that. Our position on it, like we are solving some of those scenarios that are a bit more complex. Think about social media, where if you say the wrong thing publicly with a chatbot, it could actually have negative perception on your. So our approach of having a human in a loop solves that because a human is reviewing it before it's posted. We're still using AI to generate response, to route messages, use AI for automatically hiding spam, negative comments. And this is not just to, improve your brand perception, it also drives conversions. I'll give you the example. Many brands spend on ads, let's say on Meta, and you'll have customers commenting on those ads with very negative statements. I'll give you an example. One of our customers is a food delivery company, right? And people are making fun of the food. They're saying the food is low quality. They're saying the food it doesn't look tasty. And if you as a consumer saw that video, you would say, "Oh, it looks good." But then you read the comments and you see all these negative things. It creates a negative perception in your mind. That is unfair to the brand, honestly. So we help them moderate those, automatically hide those negative comments, those spam comments, people with Bitcoin links or trying to send scam links, and then also answer the questions. Hey, how much does it cost? What does the packaging look like? Is it eco-friendly? To help drive those conversions that we've measured to show that when you respond to customers, shockingly, people convert at a higher rate, right? Because there's so many ads online and people are kind of gauging, is this a real company? Can I trust them? And if you respond quickly with a high quality response, that gives people trust in the brand. And other people are viewing that ad, the conversions also go up on those ads because other people who are more passive, they look at the comments to get a view of what's going on. And then they decide, hey, I like this brand. They respond to their comments. They're addressing their questions. Let me go ahead and convert. So it's kind of common sense, but at this scale, if you're running hundreds of ads on these platforms, it's hard to keep up. And so using AI plus this human loop actually solves that problem. So that's an area we're very strong, is that social media moderation aspect of
Right.
support.
So
Yeah.
that too can become an additional revenue channel beyond, what the ads are generating themselves, right? Like it
Right.
enhances what you're doing with the ads,
Yes.
and you treat the customer support itself as an opportunity to potentially generate more revenue.
Yes. Yes. We also do more traditional customer support, like your email support, your chat support. I think we found the most success for our business with very complex businesses. Um, if you think about, let me just take a subscription business, for example. A customer reaches out, they say they want to cancel. In a chatbot scenario, you want to solve the customer's question, you allow them to cancel, right? But what if you want to dig into why are they trying to cancel? Can I stop them from canceling? Can I give them another offer? And you'll find customers saying, "Oh yeah, actually I'm moving, so I still like the service, but I just need to pause it while I'm moving." But I didn't know how to do that because most companies have a subscription to actually make it very hard to cancel. Right? But then a human can like reason with that. And these reasoning models are getting very good, but then sometimes it's just easy to solve a problem with a human. So let's solve the very repetitive, like, where's my order? Here's the tracking link. Let's solve that with a fully automated thing. But this very high stakes scenario of someone's going to cancel their subscription, which they might not even need to. Let's have a human in the loop to kind of guide them through that process. And if they do want to cancel, we can do it. But if there's another way to solve their problem to prevent them from canceling, let's try that. So again, this also helps to grow the business and not just a customer support issue. We're trying to kind of protect the revenue of the business and give the customer the product or experience that they might want. Maybe they got sold into the wrong type of plan. And if they move to another plan, they'll be happier.
So you guys provide the human in the loop here.
Exactly. We provide the automated responses, the message routing to decide which messages should go to a human and which messages can just be answered automatically as well.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so this is more tool-like, and so it's the brand's own staff that are behind
Now we provide an
uh,
end-to-end service. So we actually have
end-to-end.
people who work on our platform. We call them experts who are trained to use our platform. And so we can solve the problem end to end for our customers. For their perspective, they just want tickets solved in their brand voice according to their guidelines. And they want it done efficiently as cost effectively as possible. And we deliver that. Price competitive with a full chatbot only solution, but still giving you that confidence in the results that you might have a risk. Because there's a fallacy that was sold about like the AI revolution in customer support, that it's set and forget. That is not the case. Like any other thing you do, you have to maintain it because your products are changing, your policies are changing, your business is changing. And you don't want your chatbot giving the return policy from 2 weeks ago or from a month ago if the return policy has changed. So the
Yeah.
whole customer service industry is having to adapt to becoming from customer support agents to becoming like AI trainers, essentially. And that's what's going on in the industry. And so we built that into our system so that we help to maintain that for you as well.
Awesome. I'm a big believer in that mix of um, humans and service and software, right? And that's also how we do things in our own business, and kind of also quite a big delivery in delivering the results, right? The finished product, not just giving you the pieces to put together yourself. And it sounds like this is really at the core of how you guys operate.
Yeah, I think the whole industry is catching up to it. If you look at the recent, VC Twitter, they're talking about it like it's brand new idea that, hey, the new thing is to deliver services, as and they started like analyzing all these different industries, like let's say accounting or law, where you're still delivering a service end to end, but you're using software in the back end to power it. But this was actually the original idea that started when we started the company, because I was so confused. I could buy a help desk software, but that actually doesn't answer my tickets. I need to hire a person, train them to use this software, and then they can answer my tickets. It didn't make sense to me at all. Why don't we just do the service? And the company can say, hey, answer my tickets, and they pay us and we answer their tickets. And so the whole industry has come to this concept. Now they call it outcome-based pricing. But this is always where we started.
Yes. Yes, totally. Yeah, it seems like everybody's catching up to it, kind of forced to it by AI, but possibly eating all the uh, SaaS opportunity that we kind of have looked at as
Yes.
the best of the best over the years, when
Yes.
perhaps the service opportunity was always lying there, and you guys
Yes.
picked it
Yes.
up sooner
Yes.
than others.
Yes.
Finishing the job, I've always said, and I think
Yes.
it's kind of what it is, right? And
Yeah.
it's clear that there's value there, right?
Yes.
Especially when, even with AI, you're never truly finishing the job 100%, right? Be it
Yes.
for compliance reasons, brand protection. There's a lot that's at stake here, and there's a space for humans.
Yes. Yes. And I think the question always came up about services, like what is the margin? Because SaaS supposedly had these amazing margins, but we actually have those margins as a business, right? We're giving our customers a great price. We're giving them amazing service, 90% plus customer satisfaction ratings in the customer support area. I mentioned already the retention and engagement metrics, and still actually running a profitable business delivering this. So I think that was one of the concern. But using AI in the back, you can make a lot of these operations of your company, of the routing, make everything much more efficient to be able to deliver this compared to the traditional, like a BPO model, like an outsourcing model that was very low margin and very hard to make a profit type of business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like you needed AI to truly build this actually profitable version of the business.
Yeah.
Um, Really cool. Well, love to learn all of this about your business, which I'm really fond of. I really like what you guys have built. If people want to find out more, where can they go?
Yeah. So you can find us at beremarkable.ai, BE, and then remarkable.ai. Happy to give you a demo, happy to learn more about your growth goals and your business and potentially offer you a pilot if it's a good fit. We're always happy and excited to meet with new brands and help them through their journey. Even if our solution is not a good fit, always happy to refer you to other tools or partners that we have, like Pietro and his team, who you can work with.
Awesome. Thank you, Nate. It was great to have you.
Thank you for the opportunity.